It's an honor to be here. My name is Gaea Logan. I'm a psychoanalyst in Boulder and also the executive director of the International Institute for Trauma Studies in Vinnytsia, Ukraine, housed in the State Pedagogical University. Today, as a big surprise, I was kind of shocked and found myself weeping for about an hour, weeping in a good way. I was awarded an honorary PhD for doing this, and also Professor Emeritus. Thank you. But today I really don't come here as an expert, but rather a witness, a dreamer, and an ordinary citizen. Let me begin with a question. What do you do when you witness suffering that is beyond your ability to fix or solve? Do you go numb? Or do you choose, however imperfectly, to respond? Elie Wiesel, Nobel laureate, Romanian-American Holocaust survivor, once said, with awareness of suffering comes responsibility. We cannot and must not unknow the suffering we become aware of. That idea lives at the heart of this story. In early 2022, as threats of the invasion loomed, I sent my curriculum to the U.S. State Department for translation. Contemplative-based trauma and resiliency training, an evidence-based clinical framework grounded in neuroscience, group therapy, and contemplative practice. I've taught this work in post-conflict zones and also disaster zones worldwide, including co-authoring an adaptation for UN peacekeeping missions in the Middle East. I was surprised it came back so quickly, the full translation. The next morning, February 24th, 2022, missiles fell across all of Ukraine. Overnight, Ukrainian graduate students and psychologists, most of whom, perhaps all of whom, had never had any training, any trauma training, became, nonetheless, military psychologists, just out of sheer necessity. I began teaching online that spring. My initial lecture evolved into a year-long lecture series. Extraordinary colleagues from Europe and the US joined me in the work. A community formed around us and within the Ukrainian community and across Ukraine and into the Ukrainian diaspora, offering solidarity and hope on a monthly basis. But that was not enough. It was far from enough. Then I had a dream. I was at the Museum of Natural History in New York City. An enormous ancient book lay open. On the left, archetypal images, a labyrinth, a serpent on the staff of Asclepius, the silhouettes of soldiers racing into a night fire, silhouetted by the flames and the building. And the words, never underestimate the ordinary. On the right side, blank pages waiting to be written. I didn't understand it, but I knew it was calling me forward. The dream became the blueprint for what is now the International Institute for Trauma Studies in Ukraine's state university system. We created a free online trauma certification program in February of this year on the anniversary of Putin's invasion. We opened an outpatient clinic to provide supervised free therapy for widows, children, parents, students, elders, and soldiers mobilized and demobilized, actively strengthening Ukraine's mental health infrastructure in the midst of war. War is not just a military conflict, it is a public health emergency. More civilians than soldiers die. Families are separated, healthcare systems collapse. Women and children bear the brunt, psychologically, economically, and spiritually. The emotional toll of war does not end with the last missile. It echoes in the psyches, the bodies, and the dreams of children, parents, and adults for decades to come. We're not just training clinicians to treat PTSD symptoms, anxiety, depression, insomnia. We're attempting to intervene on the risk of multi-generational trauma. In contemporary psychoanalysis, we speak of the loss of absolutisms, the quiet scaffolding that lets us go on being, that tomorrow will be roughly the same as today. War destroys that. You don't know when or if you'll eat or live or love again. And our clinicians, they're not outside the trauma. They live within it. We call this shared trauma. The war enters the therapy room. It lives in the silence, in the body, in the unspoken. How do you lead a support group when you and your patients just spent the night in a bomb shelter together? You begin by listening, not as a professional, but as a human being. A bridge forms. Healing begins, not despite the war, but within it. At the Institute, we teach group therapy, grief therapy, combat trauma, how to work with parents and children in acute and ongoing stress. One semester, we taught a course in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, supporting clinical research and future legislation. We teach clinicians, perhaps at the foundation of this program, how to regulate their own nervous systems before helping others, because calm creates calm. From that calm comes the ability to stay present, to hold grief, to reweave connection. Have you ever chosen compassion over convenience? In the story of the Good Samaritan, a stranger stops, offers care, crosses tribal boundaries. That refusal to turn away, to not be a bystander, is at the center of what we do. Each time I say goodbye to my dear colleague in Kyiv, he says quietly, "I hope I will be alive to speak with you again soon." In the midst of horror, profound friendships grow. The bonds that forge across continents, across cultures and identities, across war-torn regions and regions privileged with relative peace. It reminds me that even in existential catastrophe, connection is possible. In just 2 years, with very limited funding, over 3,750 Ukrainian clinicians and graduate students registered for our program. We conservatively estimate that we have reached over 50,000 patients through online and in-person training. Our goal is to scale this, to continue evolving the training program, and to open more clinics, expanding our patient reach tenfold. To hold space for grief, to plant seeds of calm. Compassion drives resilience. Dignity is a form of resistance. Connection is how we build peace in community, one nervous system at a time. I didn't intend to start an institute in a war zone, but the work called, I listened, and chose not to be a bystander. I invite you not to look away because Ukraine isn't in the headlines this week. The pain of war and the hope for healing touches each of us, whether in Ukraine, Israel, Iran, Gaza, or other wounded and devastated regions of our one beautiful and suffering world. As ordinary people, we can write the next pages of this story with awareness and responsibility. The practice of compassion is a shared responsibility. Thank you.